Welcome back. It's your boy Trevor B. West, and we're here for another episode of talking about real estate. If you don't know who I am, I'm a multifamily real estate investor. I started investing in real estate about 7 years ago. Through some trials, tribulations, and some growth, we've grown our portfolio to 73 units across 19 buildings, and we've had a blast all along the way. And one of the things that I love so much about real estate is how it's a community of people who want to help each other grow. And that's a big proponent of my business and my ministry. And so if you checked out the last video, this is episode 2 in the series of helping Cole with his first real estate property. Cole is introduce yourself, Cole. Tell us who you are.
I'm Cole. I'm about to be 20 years old, and Trevor's gonna help me get my first property.
Yep. He missed out on a couple details. He just got married, right?
Yep.
When?
December 14th of last year.
Just got married December 14th last year. Him and his wife want to make some changes, change their position in life through real estate financially. So that's what we're here to do. He approached me. He wanted to learn from some of the things that I've experienced across my career in real estate. And so this series is walking him through, and you, because a lot of people are newer investors. They have a lot of questions. So I figured if I'm going to walk him through getting into his first property, let's go ahead and throw it on a video. Let's bring some value to our audience and just go through it step by step. So in the last video, we talked a lot about what are the foundational steps that we should take before we ever buy a property. And we're going to touch on some more things. There's one more layer to that we're going to touch on in this video. And then we're going to talk about how to run the numbers. And then lastly, we're going to talk about building out your team, making sure that you have a solid group of people that are in specific areas that are going to help you get to your goal. So with that being said, starting out, last video, we talked about building your financial foundation. We talked about building a future, a vision for the future. And of course, if you're in a relationship, getting on the same page with your significant other. Adding to that, what we're doing more individually now, but specifically as a team, if you are in a married couple or you are in a relationship and you guys are moving towards this goal together, here's some more things that we're going to add to our tool belt. The first thing is learning. We want to learn as much as we can within a controlled amount of time. We don't want to make this learning journey, the initial learning journey, years and years long. We want this to be consolidated down to about 30 to 90 days of learning, depending on who you are and your learning style. Some people learn faster than others. Some people it takes them a little while for them to warm up to the idea of the ins and outs of real estate. But of course, we're never going to be fully ready to buy our first property. So of course, we take this time to learn and then we go out and we execute. But learning. So we're going to start with books. You have read a number of books that I've suggested that have helped you kind of get started in the mindset and get on the right track in terms of real estate investing. What are some of those books that you've read so far?
So one of them was The Magic of Thinking Big. That's a really good book. It's about how you can dream bigger, think bigger, and overall just live, I guess, in a way, bigger, fuller. Another one was $100 Startup. That's a good one. That's about mainly how to grow your own business, but that also is a good one that helps just give me some more just general knowledge about how stuff works. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great book.
The Purple Bible.
Yep. But yeah, those are the main ones. There's a few other smaller ones, but
yeah. And a lot of those books aren't necessarily the ins and outs of real estate, right? Mm-hmm. The Magic of Thinking Big is a book to expand our minds because, as Robert Kiyosaki says in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you got to control the real estate in here before you can ever go and control the real estate out there. So Magic of Thinking Big, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, huge, $100 Startup. It's great to just think like a business owner. Mm-hmm. It's great to just start thinking, getting your mind, building grooves in your brain to start thinking like a business owner, thinking like an entrepreneur, becoming a problem solver. Entrepreneurs, business owners are really just high-level problem solvers. That's what we do. And then we bring the solution of that problem to the marketplace, and we get compensated for it. In the world of real estate, of course, we solve problems by fixing properties. A lot of these properties, the majority of people don't want to do because it's a lot of work. They
Yeah.
don't want to solve that problem. For example, I just closed on a property yesterday, and it's a little beat up. She's a little hurt. She's going to take some work. I don't want to do it, but I got it for such a price that I'm just going to sell it to somebody else and let them take on the problem solving. I solved the problem of finding the deal, and in solving somebody else's problem of wanting a deal. I want a deal. I solved that for them, and then, long story short, walked the property with them, and they're like, this is too much work. But there is somebody out there that wants to solve that problem. I just have to find them, and that's a problem for me that I get to solve. Right? Mm-hmm. It's all about solving problems. So, reading books. Books are truly one of the greatest things that we have access to in our world, because, as Tony Robbins puts it, you take decades and you turn them into days. Now, what does that mean? You take somebody's 10, 20, 30 years of experience, and you boil it down into something that can be consumed, i.e. a book, in a matter of days or weeks. Mind-blowing. I was never a book reader. Never a book reader. And until I picked up The Rich Dad, Poor Dad and The Richest Man in Babylon, I'd never read a book cover to cover in my entire life. And I was proud of this fact. But really, it's stupid. Because what I realized when I started reading these books is that there is this other side to life that I had no idea was there until I picked up a book and read from somebody's 10, 20 to 30 years of experience and realized this is something that is super achievable for me. Because what do people mainly say in their books when they're detailing out their journey? If I can do it, so can you. And that's the truth. If I can do it, so can you. And it starts with just the same steps that Cole is starting out with here. It starts out with the same steps that I started out with 7 years ago, by picking up books, setting goals of what I wanted my life to look like, building out that vision, and stepping it out. So, books are huge. The ABCs of real estate investing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Magic of Thinking Big, The Compound Effect, How to Invest in Real Estate with Little to No Money Down. These are invaluable resources that you should have in your tool belt while you are executing on your real estate journey. Next up, mobile classroom. What does that mean to you?
Mobile classroom. Seems like learning on the go, kind of.
Learning on the go.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, if like learning on the go, how?
Like, what are you doing to learn on the go?
So when I was in college, so sometimes when I'd get like a break in between classes, that's when I would pick up my book and I'd read quite a bit of it, and then I would just go to class. I'd get out of it, have another break, and then so that was just an easy way for me to just kind of coast on through those books. And then at other points when I was realizing, I'm going to pick up my phone and play a game, sometimes I realized that, instead of that, I could actually be a little more productive. I haven't done a whole lot today. I can just read a little bit of my book, make a little bit of progress, and take a step to further my life in a positive way.
Right on.
Yeah.
So that comes in the form of, like, when we're talking about a mobile classroom, turning our vehicle, you should be turning your vehicle into a mobile classroom through the form of podcasts and audiobooks. The same principle of turning decades into days with books is the same with podcasts and audiobooks. You take someone's experience, you boil it down into something that can be consumed in minutes or hours, and now it's downloaded in your brain. Even if you only pull a few things out of that, you're still taking somebody's experience, like the Matrix, when they plug in and they're like, and Trinity says, I need to learn how to drive this crotch rocket now. And it downloaded into her brain, jump starts it, and she takes off. That's exactly how we should be with books, podcasts, and audiobooks. Specific to this, turn your vehicle into a mobile classroom. Every time you start your engine, you should be learning something about the goal that you have of transforming your life through real estate. So you've been listening to some podcasts.
Yep.
What are those podcasts you've been listening to?
The main one that I've been listening to is the Bigger Pockets podcast. There's a lot of investors, even rookie investors, that just have a couple properties. They started out from nothing a couple of years ago. And now they have a few properties, and they're just sharing their experience and their journey on how they started it. And a lot of the information is super valuable from what I've been hearing. It's a lot more valuable than if I was just playing a dumb game on my phone.
100%.
Yeah.
So in the last video, we talked about phone usage. And I had when I say the last video, I mean we recorded this already, only for me to find out, because I don't have someone behind the screens right now, that this camera right here was completely blurred out the entire time. So this is actually round 2 of us filming this about 10 days later, because I ended up going out of town. But when we recorded this the first time, I had mentioned that Cole is one of the people, when I go to Instagram stories, he's basically the person that I get my news updates from, because he posts sometimes, 10, 15 stories of different things that are happening, because he uses X. He posts that on his Instagram story. And so we started talking about screen time. And we broke it down that, of course, we're calling him out, but Cole's using about 6 hours a day on his phone during the regular weekday, and maybe even 8 hours on the weekends. And so if we were to break that out, just 6 hours a day, that Cole is using
Over 40 years, it's about 10 years worth
10
of my life.
years, 10 years of his life on his phone.
And if you just count the hours that I'm awake, that's half. Roughly.
That's crazy, dog.
Yeah.
Half of our life given to a device that doesn't want the best for us, wants us to be zombies, be consumers, purchase things, and use our time and our attention to make other people rich. Instead, let's take this use of device, make it a utility for us, a tool. Because, dude, there's so many things that we can do with our phones that can put thousands, millions of dollars in our pockets, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Bang. So, using podcasts and audiobooks, Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets is hands down one of the best podcasts to listen to, especially as a newbie, because it gives you a lot of exposure. One of the things that I learned early on in my real estate investing journey is that I wanted to learn about all the different types of real estate. That way I knew which one was going to be the best for my life. Not so I could jump around from thing to thing or do a bunch of different things at once, but I knew I wanted to focus on one thing. And for me, what fit for my life and the resources that were available to me was multifamily real estate. I had access to the VA loan because I was in the military at the time. 0% down loan product. You can buy up to 4 units. Absolutely amazing. If you're in the military, if you're watching this, absolutely invaluable resource again. But I encourage you, figure out what is the best that works for your life, whether it's flips, rentals, multifamilies, foreclosures, Section 8, wholesaling, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals. There is a ton of stuff out there. But again, that's why we got to remember, begin with the end in mind. We want to focus on one. That way, we don't get squirrel brain and we don't waste time learning about all these things in depth. Take 30 to 90 days, learn all that you can about real estate, and then take action. And that's what I encourage you to do. We don't want to waste time. You are in a place right now where you are gathering all of the resources that you have available to you. And once you get them to a place where they're able to be executed on, man, we execute. Just off camera, we were talking about, hey man, when was the last time you ran a deal? He said, I haven't ran one yet. So my encouragement to Cole is dude, start running those deals, start running the numbers. And we're going to talk, of course, you'll see us on the whiteboard here in a minute, but start running those deals. You want to know what a good deal is and a bad deal is. That way, when you go to pull the trigger, all it is just a nice, smooth squeeze. There's some other ways to learn about real estate. I took a online course, a community college in my local area hosted a real estate investing course. And there might be something like that. I actually have the link for the original one that I did. Anybody can take it. It's $75. It's a 6-week course. It's at your own leisure. And I think you have to check in and do stuff like 2 times a week. But it takes you through the entire process. It takes you through rentals, flips, wholesaling, real estate owned or bank owned properties, foreclosures. It gives you a good foundation for what's available to you. It doesn't go a whole lot into short-term rentals or mid-term rentals, but still a really good resource to just learn a baseline of all the stuff that's available to you. And something like that is really the only thing that I would encourage when it comes to online courses. Because if you're like me, you have an Instagram, you have a Facebook, you have a TikTok, there are people out there that either some of them know what they're doing, some of them don't really know what they're doing, but they're selling courses. My caution is go and do your own research. Go and watch all the free resources on YouTube. Go and read all the books that you can get your hands on within that 30 to 90 days. Go and do your own level of stuff before you go and pay somebody to teach you thousands of dollars, because the reality is, one, this is the difference between interested and committed. You're either interested in real estate, meaning this is something that you talk about with your friends, you kind of mention it to your spouse, you might watch a video here and there, but you haven't taken any action. Most people are in the interested pool. Now, being committed to real estate is you are shutting out all the distractions. You are on a path to get this done no matter what. So, do not go and buy somebody else's course. All that to say, until you know that you are on this committed path. Because if you're just interested and you're not totally sure, one, you're going to waste your money. And two, you're going to have a bad taste of real estate in your mouth before you ever even buy your first property. I mean, unless the course is really good, it's been vetted, all that stuff. But again, whether it's a good course or a bad course, you want to make sure you are on the committed track, not just the interested track. Nobody can instill that motivation and inspiration inside of you. You've got to do it yourself through action, and action happens on the committed side of life. So, which one are you in? Are you either interested or are you committed? And that's a real question that you have to ask yourself. So that's what I would suggest, even for you. And I don't think you need that because you have relationship and proximity to me. I can point you in the right direction should you ever want to go and buy a course. We would, of course, go and vet that and do all the things. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is making sure that you have a mentor, somebody close to you, somebody that you know, like, and trust, somebody that knows, likes, and trusts you, and someone that you can add value to that is doing the things that you want to do in your chosen field. If there is a prominent flipper in your area and you want to do flips, you want to go and add value to this person, because you got to think, they probably have people coming up to them. Hey, man, can I pick your brain? Hey, man, I'd love to take you out for a cup of coffee. Oh, you want to take me for a cup of coffee, an hour of my time to tell you how to make thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars? What value are you bringing to me? Yes, it's a community of people who like to do that. But if you are somebody who's doing it at a high level, imagine how many coffee dates you would have with people who want to pick your brain. It's a good thing for people to protect their worth and protect their assets by offering a course. But we just want to, one, make sure we know who that person is. But if you're looking for a mentor, we want to add value to that person. That way they will add value to us, and then moving forward. But we'll talk about that more in detail when we talk about building out your team. So what do you got? You got any final shot before we move on from learning from either books, podcasts, anything that you've learned specifically on your journey so far that really stuck out to you, or anything that you want to share?
One thing I will say is that from what I've been watching, there's just a lot of different ways in real estate that people are making money. There's one person that was not actually owning properties, but having an agreement with the owner of the property, and they were basically using them as Airbnbs and renting them out. And I just thought that was super interesting. There was people that were doing flips. There was just all different kinds of ways people are coming up with creative things to make money in this.
Absolutely. Whatever's available to you in your area, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got a good friend of mine, Rafa Loza. Shout out Rafa. Go check him out. Absolute beast. He does Airbnb arbitrage, which is what you just detailed, which is going and renting out apartments, units, or houses from owners and then turning them into Airbnbs. I think at his peak, he had about 150 going at one time. Absolutely killing it. Really, really great wealth of information. So check out Rafa Loza if you're interested in the short-term rental game. He's definitely doing it at a super high level, and his content is really good. But yeah, dude, there's so many different ways. That's why I love real estate, because you don't have to be pigeonholed to doing flips. I don't really want to do flips. I don't like to do flips. I like rentals because rentals support my lifestyle. If I stop doing rentals now, I still make money every month. Or if I stop buying rentals, I still make money. Whereas flips, if I were only doing flips and I stopped doing them, I don't have any more money.
Right.
I have to keep feeding the machine. And one of the things I notice with people is they'll go and start doing flips at a high level, and then of course they go and they buy really nice cars. They go and they buy really nice houses. They have an incredible team. But what that does is it creates a very high operating cost. So they have to feed their marketing machine to go doing more flips and more flips and more flips. Now, of course, that's with any business. If you stop selling products, you stop making money. But I got into real estate because I wanted freedom. And I think that's what most people want. Most people want freedom out of real estate. They don't want to get into real estate so they can have another job. They get into real estate so they can separate themselves from that job should they choose to. It's the freedom to choose. Real estate provides the freedom to choose, specifically rental real estate. Because if I generate enough money per month from rental properties, I can then take the option, do I want to stay at this job or do I want to leave this job? Or even worse, they say, hey, we are actually discontinuing you from working here. I now have options. I don't have to fall flat on my face. Real estate, rental real estate provides options. Flipping is great in order to get a lump sum of cash. But if you stop flipping, you stop making money. Whereas rentals, long-term rentals, you build up a portfolio. That portfolio is going to continue to pay you month after month as long as you continue to maintain them and operate them effectively and efficiently. So really good point. And then what are some other ways to learn? Besides books, podcasts, Audible, online courses, we also have people, meetups, and networking. So you came to one of my networking events. I have a networking real estate meetup where 15-ish people, sometimes 20, gather together and we just talk shop. We talk about life. We talk about, of course, real estate. You came to one of those. What was that experience like for you?
I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of new people too that were in real estate, and they were doing very well, most of them. So they were also really nice people. Just could get along with them, and yeah, they were just great.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Again, there's this other side of life that I didn't realize. And I remember when I went to my first meetup, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, there are people out here doing this that are my age. They're super hungry. They're super smart. and they're taking action. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I just wanted to be there. I was always the first person there, and I was the last one to leave. Like, I just wanted to hang around these people because it was such a shock to the system. Now, I was in the Air Force. I was in a special forces unit, so we were around high ops tempo people, but high ops tempo for the mission of whatever somebody else told us was the mission, right? And then we go figure that out. Cool stuff, but we weren't building anything for ourselves. And I think that's the delineation. And once you read books like The Magic of Thinking Big, and then you get around people who are thinking big, it's just this breath of fresh air. It's like, dude, I can turn my life into something truly magnificent by being around the right people, even if it's just for a moment, right? So I'm really glad that you brought that part up, is that there's these other people that seem to be doing really well. I like how you said they seem to be doing really well, because the truth is we never really know how well people are doing. Very seldomly do people get on camera and break down how much money they're making every single month. So just something to keep in mind. But going to meetups, networking with other people, figuring out who's doing what in your local market, who you can ask questions to, who are good resources, and just somebody to rely on when things inevitably get tough. Like, you met Jimmy
Yeah.
Domer. Jimmy Domer is my business partner, if you will, on the meetup. We just kind of host it together. But oftentimes we'll get there early so we can just chat, him and I. And he's a multifamily guy, I'm a multifamily guy, and we just kind of vent to each other like, oh my gosh, life is kicking me in the teeth right now. And it's good to have somebody that you can do that with, right? So networking, and I would have never met Jimmy had I not joined a mastermind. And the mastermind is a high-level real estate mastermind. And I was talking with him. We actually met in Puerto Rico. I was like, hey, dude, where are you at? He's like, oh, I'm in Ohio. I said, where at? He said, Hartville. Oh, my God, you're 15 minutes from me. So the power of going and meeting other people.
That's super cool, actually.
Yeah, it was
What are the
wild.
odds?
Like, and he is just a cool dude.
Yeah.
He loves to hunt and fish. I don't really care about those things, but it seems cool. He's always like killing stuff. So, I'm like, dude, you really like to kill stuff. So I think that's pretty neat. We used to do that in the military. Very different things.
Very different.
Very different things. But yeah, it's, again, the other side of life, dude. When you go and you're taking action and you get out of your comfort zone and you're doing things that, you wouldn't have typically done, you meet incredible people and you find out that there's this magic of life that we can all tap into. There's this greatness that's inside of us that we can all tap into. And it's going to look different for you than it does for me. But going out and meeting people is a good inspiration to figure out, oh, I can do more. And that's one of the things I learned when I surrounded myself with people who were doing it. It was like, I am capable of so much more. If they can do it, I can do it. And I'm not that smart. I figured out some things, but it's the bold that succeed, not the intelligent. So we're going to jump over to the whiteboard. We're going to run over some numbers. We're going to talk about what it looks like to run the 1% rule. So I can't remember if I explain what the 1% rule is when I start that section, because it's the only part of the video of the last recording that we were able to keep. But the 1% rule is, in basic terms, your all-in cost for a property, which is your purchase price, your closing costs, if you have any, and your renovation costs, if you have any. Did we talk about the 203K in the last video?
I think a little bit.
Okay.
I think we talked about that in the video that got really blurry.
Okay. So actually, before we do that, let's just talk about specifically what we're doing with Cole, but also just really briefly mention what some of the other investing programs or resources that we have available to us. So You already know that I mentioned I used the VA loan to buy my first property. It's a 0% down loan product up to 4 units, but it's specifically for people who are either in the military or veterans with 90% disability or more. Those are the people that get access to the VA loan. What we're looking at doing with Cole are one of two things. One is the FHA loan, First Time Home Buyers Association loan. It's a government-backed loan where they will offer 3.5% down, and that's basically all you need, plus some closing costs in order to get into a property. Now it comes with a catch, and so does the other one that I'm about to mention, which is PMI, or private mortgage insurance. Anytime that you do not put the full 20% down for a property, they're going to charge you private mortgage insurance until you get up to your what would have equaled 20% down. Once you get to that 20% of equity in your property, then that private mortgage insurance will come off. It's typically calculated between 0.08 and 0.125 of the loan amount, and you can do that math on your own. I might have even talked about it here in the next segment. And then the other government-backed loan, which is a 5% down, is your Fannie Mae or your Freddie Mac loan product. This is something that's fairly new. Either 2023 or 2024, they implemented the 5% down, 3 to 5% down for multifamily property. These are game-changing loan products, ladies and gentlemen. This is the easiest way to get into your first deal, because you go and do what's called a house hack. You live in one unit and you rent out the other or others, whether it be a 2-unit or a 4-unit. I recommend most bang for your buck. And here's the consideration. We live in Northeast Ohio. These properties are fairly cheap here in this market. You might be somewhere in California. You might be somewhere in New York or just Florida, where the properties are more expensive. Of course, we got to look at the resources that are available to us in our market. But with that being said, these FHA loan, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, easiest way to get in. You do your 3 to 5% down, you live in one unit, and then you rent out the other one. And then say you decide to move into another rental property or do something else, move into a home for you and your family, you can then rent out the other unit that you were living in. And now, ideally, as long as you buy right, you have a cash flowing asset, So those are for specific to this conversation. Of course, there's flips, there's large commercial multifamily, there's storage, there's RV parks, campgrounds, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, Airbnb arbitrage. We're not even going to venture into those things, also because I'm not the authority on those things. What I do is multifamily real estate. I know what I've done. So that's specifically what this channel is going to be about. I'm not going to be getting into the fluff. Nobody wants to hear me talk about that. So we're going to run the numbers. But also we need to consider we need to know. The reason that we need to run the numbers and know how to run the numbers is because we need to know what a good deal is and what a bad deal is. If you don't know what a good deal is versus a bad deal, you're going to potentially buy a bad deal. This is going to leave a bad taste in your mouth when it comes to your real estate investing journey. It takes tenacity to overcome that obstacle if your first crack at it is a long-lasting, miserable mistake. So we want to buy the property for the right price. We want to make sure at a minimum, if we're doing a house hack, that it meets the 1% rule, meaning while I'm living in it, my cost of living is very, very low, if not eliminated. And then when I move out, I'm going to be able to make cash flow from that rental property. How's that?
That looks good.
All right, so the 1% rule is going to be depicted here. So, hang on. So the 1% rule. It's a very simple framework to understand what a property is going to cash flow when it's all said and done. And we have some numbers here as an example. Keep in mind that we live in Northeast Ohio. You might not be able to buy properties for this price tag where you're at, but this is the ideal for getting into a property. Not necessarily the ideal. There's even cheaper multifamily properties in the area, and there's of course more expensive ones. I just chose the simple number of 170 for the example. So the 1% rule, for the simplest way that I can explain it, for simple numbers, if I buy a property and my all-in cost is $100,000, or if we want our rent income to be 1% of that, 1% of $100,000 is $1,000. So let's look at the example. So in this example, we have a purchase price of $170,000. Our all-in cost is $175,000. So if the purchase price is $170,000, we have closing costs of $5,000, and you have $6,000 of down payment, or your 3.5% down. That's going to be wrapped into your all-in cost here. So if we have all that, we want our 1% of that to be we want that to be 1.75 or $1,750. So bring that all the way down. 1% rule. Most 2 bedrooms, 1 baths in this area will rent for $1,000 a piece. So we have $1,000 from each unit. If it's a duplex, bang, that's $2,000. And that is above the 1% rule. Now, of course, keep in mind, you're going to be living in one of these units, so you're not going to be making that $2,000. But once you move out, it becomes an income-producing asset. The 1% rule meets the benchmark. Also, we're going to be making a little bit of scratch here. It might not be a ton. We only put 3.5% down. When you put down a small amount of money, it means your payment's going to be higher because your loan amount is bigger versus if you were to put the full 20% down. But when it's an income producing asset, bang, $2,000 meets the benchmark. Now, something to consider when you're using the FHA loan, you're using a Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae government-backed loan, and you're only putting 3.5 or 5% down, you'll have something that's called private mortgage insurance. So or PMI. And this will be about 0.08% of your loan amount. So for something like this, you might have a PMI on an annual basis of around, let's call it $2,000. And that's annual. So you would divide this by 12, and that would be an additional payment on your mortgage. So that's something to consider, especially when you're running the deals. Again, when I first got started, I ran hundreds and hundreds of deals to make sure I knew what a good deal was and what a bad deal was. You want to have your wits about you when you're going to make a decision of this magnitude because it's your first deal. Now, you don't have to go nuts here. I'm not telling you to thousands and thousands of deals and wait for a unicorn. No, you want to know the difference between a good deal and a bad deal. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, because a lot of people will be looking at deals for months and months and months and months and say no to plenty of good deals because they're waiting for the perfect deal that never comes. The first deal, you just want to make sure that you don't lose money. Rule number 1 is don't lose money. The rest you'll figure out along the way, just as I did. Now, another thing that you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind is that there will be expenses when you buy this property, whether it's water heater, lawn maintenance, plumbing issues. If you feel like you're pretty handy, then sure, you can tackle these things on your own. However, I don't do any of that stuff. I hate doing those things. Actually, we have in our ensuite bathroom here at my home, we have a sink that is leaking from the back. And I tried to fiddle around with it, couldn't do it, and it's still leaking because I have yet to call a maintenance person. But I will be calling a maintenance person to do something so simple because it's just not for me to do. I wasn't born or made for these things. But I think the simplest way to look at it is I would cut 30% of your 30% of your gross income to maintenance issues. Now, if you're getting, again, an FHA loan, Fannie Freddie, these properties are going to be in pretty decent shape. And I do suggest getting into a property that is in pretty decent shape, unless you're going to go the FHA 203K route where you're going to have a renovation loan. But we talk about that a little later in the video. I break that down just a little more, and Cole has some questions about it. But 30% of those expenses or of your income is going to go to expenses. So on a mortgage like this, I recommend downloading Carl's Mortgage Calculator. Carl's Mortgage Calculator, you can plug in your purchase price, your down payment, your interest rate, and your insurance and your taxes, and it'll spit out pretty close to what you'll be paying every single month. And I think when I ran it on this one, we came out to about $15.95 per month in terms of a payment. So if we're making is it too low?
It's just like it would start to get cut off.
So when I ran the numbers on this, we had about $15.95 per month. Now remember, our gross is $2,000. I don't know why I did it that way, but that's how it happened. It's $2,000. So that leaves us with about $400 left over. Now, if we've cut 30% of expenses, 30% of 1,000 is 300. 600 in expenses, but realistically, you're not going to have $600 per month in expenses. Maybe if you have a hot water heater, you might have that go out. But typically, unless you're not living in it, I do recommend cutting 10% for capital expenditures, 10% for property management if you don't plan on managing the property. But in this scenario, we're going to be living in one of them and renting out the other one, so we don't need a professional manager. I always factor it in at the beginning, though, just in case down the road I move away, I don't want to manage the property anymore, or what have you. I can have those expenses set in place, and then you can do 3 to 5% for your monthly expenses. So 30% is definitely on the high side, and so I would recommend you'll probably have somewhere around $200 in expenses with lawn care, snow removal, those types of things. But again, those are things that you can do yourself. So I still think that this is a decent property to get your foot into, and of course, rent goes up over time. Just when it's $1,000 today, next year it might be $1,050 or even $1,100 or even more, depending on where you're at. And so when you're running these deals, you want to understand what is the average rent in that area. What are properties going for? An easy way to do this is go to apartments.com, go to Zillow, type it in there, search in the areas of where you're looking to buy an investment property, and start looking at what do 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, duplexes, triplexes, and quads go for in this area, and then reverse engineer it. Start applying it to properties that are for sale in that area and run the 1% rule on them. Figure out how much it's going to cost you to get into the property. Figure out how much you'll be able to bring in gross income while you're living there, and when you move out. Now, you might not be able to reduce your living expense completely when you move into and do a house hack in a multifamily property, especially if you're going into a 2-unit. However, it will significantly bring down, somebody's at the door, it will significantly bring down your living costs and propel you into investing in real estate quicker and faster in the future. Bang. How long was that?
11 minutes.
Building your team is one of the most important parts of your real estate investing journey. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it certainly wasn't built by one person. If you think that you're going to go out and do it all on your own, I'm telling you right now, that is going to be a challenge. So, have you already started looking at what it means to build your team? Or do you think that you can mention any of the people that are on this list?
Yeah, it's a lender, a contractor, might be a couple. There's a couple other ones.
Who helps you find the properties?
An agent.
Agent.
And
You're sitting next to
a mentor.
Bang. So your lender, your agent, and your contractor. Probably most importantly for this first step is your lender and your agent and your mentor. We definitely want to have a good mentor who is leading us effectively and guiding our steps as we venture out into this journey of real estate. So, in the last video, we talked about building out our financial foundation, right? Me and you talked about, and we've talked at length on and off camera about what it means to have a firm financial foundation, how much money we want to have in the bank for our specific area before we venture out and go start looking to actually acquire properties. I do recommend running the numbers so you know what a good deal versus a bad deal is. But having that firm foundation then sets us up so that we can go talk to lenders and real estate agents and be able to take action. All the things that we're doing before that are setting it up so that when we get ready to cock the gun and squeeze the trigger, that's all we have to do is squeeze the trigger, not, oh, I'm ready to shoot. I have all my money in the bank, but I don't know how to find a deal. Or I know how to find a deal, but I don't have the money in the bank, but I'm talking to lenders and agents. You're really just going to be wasting their time. Agents don't want to work with people who do not have purchasing power, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about having between $10,000 and $15,000 saved up, ready to deploy specifically for this endeavor. So once we have that, then we can go talk with lenders. Lenders are one of our most valuable assets because without them, we cannot buy properties unless you have a ton of cash or you are raising capital. It's beyond the scope of this video. So for this video, we'll be talking about utilizing lenders because they are our friends and finding good lenders. So this applies to both lenders and agents. You want to find both of those assets who are investing in real estate themselves. They understand the game, they understand the market, they understand how to guide us in the right direction alongside our mentor. So lenders, once we have that money ready, then we go and we start talking with lenders. I recommend talking to as many as you can. Learn the lingo, learn their names. Where do they go for meetups? What kinds of loan products are they offering? What types of new things have come out or what types of things have been done away with, right? We want to have conversations with these people and learn how they do things. The best way to meet them is going to, of course, the meetups. But if you can find somebody who believes in you and wants to help you along your journey, which most of them do, they'll answer all these questions that you have. Hey, what's the best way for me to do this that you've seen in your experience? Because people love talking about themselves. Truly. People love talking about themselves more than they love talking about anything else. How would you got to just freaking, massage them a little bit, if you know what I mean. There, I was gonna go in a different direction, and then
I'm good. I'm glad that you went that
and then I'm
direction.
remembering that we are filming this thing. Um, but we want to make sure that we are building good relationships with these people so that they'll give us good, accurate information. So you have the money in the bank, you go talk to the lenders will point you in the right direction. Secondly, agents. This is even more important because an agent can make or break your investing journey. You want to find an agent who is a killer, not literally, but an absolute killer in the marketplace. They're hungry, they're driven, they want to do deals, they want to help their clients. That's rule number one. Rule number two is they must be investors themselves. They must be investors themselves. Why? Because they will just, if you just say, go to any random agent and say, oh, I want to buy a multifamily property. I've seen so many agents completely destroy, blow up deals because it wasn't actually a good deal. It just happened to fit the category that the person was looking for, and they were a newer agent or a newer investor. They didn't know what they didn't know. So that is a minimum criteria for me. You got to be a killer and you've got to know your way around an investment property. Because here's how it goes. You call these agents up. Hey, do you work with investors? Oh, yeah, I work with investors. No, do you have rental properties yourself? Oh, well, I did about 15 years ago. I sold them all. Okay, I appreciate it. No, thank you. A lot has changed in 15 years. There's a reason why you're not in the game anymore. You either didn't do it well, so you got out because you were tired, you were burnt out, what have you. You want to find someone who is actively doing deals and can point you in the right direction and is a killer. Our contractors. This, again, is a little beyond the scope of the conversation for us today, but having a good, solid contractor in your area. Where do we meet these people?
At meetups.
Bang! I just met a contractor at a meetup, and they seemed great. They seemed super on top of it. They said they could even come in maybe below what I've been paying and do it faster. That's invaluable, right? No matter how many years you're in the game, you could always meet new people. Never stop going to meetups. Never stop meeting new people. It is truly like it's a journey, just like it's a never-ending journey. This real estate game is you never stop learning, you never stop meeting people, and you never stop having incredible experiences. But with contractors, you want to get a solid number of references, 3 at a minimum. You want to talk to other people in the community that have used them, right? If you're going to meetups and those contractors are there, the likelihood of them having done work for another investor in the room is likely. So you can go and see, hey, how do they do this work? Go and say, hey, do you have any current jobs that you're working right now? I'd love to stop by. And then say, oh, yeah, we'll be here, X, Y, Z. And then just pop in. Don't call ahead. Just pop in and say, hey, just want to check out your job site. If the job site is trashed, if you feel unsafe when you go there, that is a real possibility. Or if you go there and it's not lunchtime and nobody's there, these are just things to follow up on, right? But having a good contractor or multiple contractors is, again, invaluable. So there is another aspect of the FHA loan. There's 2 different loan products. There's the FHA loan 203B and there's the FHA loan 203K. 203B is the one where you just buy a rent-ready, turnkey property that you move into and rent out the other side or sides. The 203K is a property that needs some renovations. And the lender will actually bring the renovation funds required to get that property to move-in ready status. And that's where, in the sake of this conversation, we want to have that contractor at the ready. I still recommend going and building relationships with contractors, agents, lenders, having conversations with the people, becoming an investor before you ever buy your first property. That's an important thing to do. But especially so when you want to do the FHA loan 203K, where you want to do a renovation. What I recommend is just finding a rent-ready turnkey property So that way you can get familiar with the process. You have an asset now, and then you can turn your sights on to doing either a flip or another rental or moving on to just the next step. And that's when having a contractor is going to be even more important. But the glue, the team member that holds all the glue together is going to be your mentor. Somebody in your market that you know, like, and trust. Yet again, this is somebody that you bring value to. This is somebody who's going to guide you, make sure that you're on the right path. Having a mentor is one of the greatest assets of my investing career. If I didn't have a mentor, I don't know exactly where I would be at in my investing journey, because so many times I've gone to him asking questions and he has pointed me in the right direction. And there's also been times when I've gone to my mentor and I asked him what to do. He told me what to do, and then I didn't do it. And then I learned the lesson of not doing what he had suggested that I do. For example, I'm selling some of my properties down in North Carolina. He said, hey, you're going to want to get your properties on the market Q1 because a lot of people generate activity in the first quarter of the year. Lo and behold, I'm just getting these properties listed, and it is now almost June. Tomorrow it will be June. So I drug my feet, and the properties will most likely sit for a little longer. I might not even get the same amount. Well, I definitely won't get the same amount because the market has shifted a little bit. But these are considerations that we want to have when we start investing in real estate. We want to have somebody who's in the market, who knows the market, and can tell us, hey, dude, you should probably do this either now, you should wait on this, or do what's, again, best. A good mentor is going to have you find the answer for yourself and then guide you down that path versus forcing you into a specific direction, right? Just the other day, you were thinking about potentially selling your car. I think it's a good idea. You thought it was a good idea. We went through it, and you're like, hey, man, I'm just not so sure about this. Hey, whatever works for you. If I were to sit here and beat you over the head and tell you to sell your car, and then something bad happens or it was a mistake, you have regret, remorse, whatever, you're going to look at me and be like, oh, I wish that I hadn't listened to him. So I want to steer you in the right direction for what makes you feel comfortable but uncomfortable at the same time. All these things that we're going through are probably pretty uncomfortable.
A little bit, but being uncomfortable can help you grow. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is actually, this quick sidebar, what has been some of the most uncomfortable things that you've experienced on this journey so far?
Well, I think actually going to the first meetup for me I'm not really a social person.
You're not?
So going to the first meetup was a little hard.
Well, if you're comfortable with the people that you are
Yeah.
around, you can be quite social.
Mm-hmm. But when I was initially about to go to that first meetup, I was kind of debating on it, second guessing it a little bit, but I decided, it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. So I decided to go, and I ended up just really enjoying it a lot. I know that one of my friends was thinking about going as well, and they decided not to go, and that kind of also was persuading me, and I was thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't go. But then I kind of just set on it that, no, I'm going to go. Even if it does make me uncomfortable, I'm still going to go. I'm still going to experience it. And I ended up really enjoying it. So
boom. That's the magic. Thinking big, baby.
Yep.
We got to step out of our comfort zones. That is one of the most important things about investing in real estate is you're going to get uncomfortable. But the key is to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's going to get tough. It's going to be challenging, but business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, we are professional problem solvers. Everything is figure outable. Everything is figure outable. So we just need to be solution minded, not problem minded. And that's a conversation you and I just had, which was we've got to be solution focused, not focused on all the problems that are bearing down on us, right?
Yep.
Because when we start to step out of our comfort zone, it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So then we're standing here in this discomfort thinking, why am I doing this? This isn't working. I don't like this. And maybe I should just go and do the thing that I was going to do before, right? We just had that conversation.
Mhm.
And through that, you needed the reassurance that no, dude, you're making progress. Whether you're learning about real estate, whether you're talking to people about real estate, that is progress. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. You might not be in your first deal for 6 months. You might not be in your first deal for 8 months. You might find the best deal ever in a month. It just, everybody's journey is different, right?
Yeah.
So we can't judge what we're going through to somebody else's story or journey. And also in that discomfort, we just got to be patient. We've got to pray. We've got to learn how to just handle the obstacles and be able to let it roll right off of our backs, just like a duck. Water just rolls right off their back. So I'm proud of the steps that you've taken and how you have, stood steadfast in your discomfort, right? When you were just uncomfortable, instead of just saying, I give up, you picked up the phone and you called me, right? And we talked. And we talked about all the different things, all of the different options that are available to you, right?
Yep.
And that's what we got to do. Go to the people who are going to encourage, edify, and uplift us. And life will be that much easier. So we've talked about learning. We've talked about running the numbers. We've talked about building your team and how important that is. Do not skip that step. Build out your strong team. And lastly, get out there and take action. Action is going to be what separates people who are interested versus those who are committed. Action is going to be the separation between who is unsuccessful in real estate and who is successful. Action is going to dictate who is unhappy on their real estate journey and who is happy on their real estate journey. Action is going to be the decider on who is able to build a real business and change their lives totally through real estate, and those who will not. That is really it. So you got to put yourself out there, post it on social media, tell all your friends. And if they say, oh, you're an idiot, say, sure, maybe I am, but I'm going there anyway. When you go to meetups, even if you don't have your first deal yet, I'm an investor. This is who I am. This is the path that I am headed on. And of course, most importantly, one part of my journey, which was my faith in Christ, has been magnified and tested and stretched through this entrepreneurial business owner journey. And it is truly one of my greatest joys, is be able to share my faith with those who have not heard it or haven't heard it in a while, or have come across people who proclaimed it, but they did some really terrible things. Don't let people turn you from the steeple. This is our ministry. This is my ministry. And whether it's starting out with just getting, first rental property, or whether it starts with just having a conversation about where we think we're going to go when we die, it all comes back down to our faith in Jesus, and that there is only one way to get into heaven, and that is through him. There's no amount of deals that I can buy. There's no amount of money that I can make that will ever prove my worth here on this earth. My worth is defined and identified through the person and God of Jesus Christ. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Those are the things that people say. But we will see you on the next one, and we'll start diving into the specifics of running deals, looking at deals, and really changing our lives through real estate. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next one.